are very happy to have 72 young fellows from various European but also non-European countries, because we have several people from South America, and we also have one participant from Mozambique. So for them, the main purpose is to get an overview on hypertension, and for us is to provide them with nice overviews, but also to establish a network, because for us, we think that it's very important that they learn each other, because they will have to cooperate in the future on hypertension in Europe.
Yes, the main purpose of the ASH Summer School is to create these networks of students, of people from several countries, in order to promote that cooperation, because nowadays investigation it's too expensive to be done in one place. So if you have a network of people doing the same job or complementary jobs, we can reach more and more comprehension about this most important disease in the humankind, because most of deaths in all the world are due to cardiovascular diseases, and hypertension is by far the most important risk factor for cardiovascular diseases.
So do you both believe that this mixture of nationalities can really bring more diversity even to the subjects that can be discussed here, because they have like different experiences and different backgrounds?
Definitely, we are convinced. And as a matter of fact, some of them are already involved in some cooperative studies.
Yes, and they are doing very interesting experiences and very interesting experimental studies of several levels, from biology to experimental models with animals, but also epidemiology, etc. So this summer school has been some kind of a seed for the growth of new projects, new collaborations, and definitely I was a student several years ago, and nowadays I'm organizing the course. So I think this is the real purpose of the summer school. I hope that in 10 years or 12 years ago, some of the students will be in charge of organizing another summer school.
Well, I think this event is more important because it's all about young professionals, as you said, next generation of hypertension scientists and clinicians. So I think we only as good as the succession planning, we only as good as a society as the young people who come join us and take over to shape the society into the future. I think the meeting of that size of 70-something people or 60-something people allows for a lot of interaction between young colleagues and also interaction with the faculty. You can't really achieve this at many thousand type of annual general meeting of the society. So it's these interactions between people sharing opinions and becoming friends for the future that I think is the most important. As I've tried to show, the majority of studies that change the way we practice medicine are not done by a single individual or even single group, but are done as multidisciplinary collaborations between many groups around the world. So these sort of meetings where people become friends, start trusting each other, would then build a network, could lead to European community networks, tackling really important health issues for the future. I think preventing hypertension is very difficult,
yeah.
But we can try to tackle it better. And for me, the best is probably this idea of stratified medicine that I talked about. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that we use molecular diagnosis, we use mutations, we use next generation sequencing, best drug for the right patient in the right circumstances, the right price, and without side effects. And I think that's the applicable, clinically applicable future. And we're getting there. There is still a lot of work to do, but we're getting there more and more.
I'm grateful to my colleagues for their sympathy, and the fact is that I've been working in the field for many decades nowadays, and so I have, if I can say, the pleasure or the privilege of having seen development of antihypertensive treatment since the first times when drugs for antihypertensive treatment were very few and treatment was difficult. Only malignant or severe hypertension could be treated to an age like nowadays, where all even mild hypertensive patients can be usefully and beneficially being treated with drugs. Biggest evolution was in the last 20 years, I'd say, when many new classes of antihypertensive drugs had been added to the early ones, and the first drugs were not so manageable, were associated with more adverse effects for the patient. Now we have a large choice of drugs for the patient, so we can find the right drug for the right patient and being able to decrease blood pressure also by using more than one drugs in the right associations. So we can, for most of the hypertensive patients, we can lower blood pressure to target without too many adverse events. But still, I think the challenge in front of us is to obtain a better adherence to treatment. Adherence to treatment is still a challenge in front of us because it's still rather poor all over the world. I said at the beginning of my lecture that I'm particularly proud that the summer school started for the European Society of Hypertension at the time I was the president of the society. I was convinced at that time, I'm even more convinced nowadays, because now we had many years of summer school, many young people that started, and as Dr. Pinto mentioned in his talk, he was one of the pupils 10 or more years ago, and now he's an organizer of the summer school. This is really the foundation for a continuation of the society, not so much of the society, but of research in hypertension.
So it's a way of guaranteeing the continuity.
The continuity in the future. Fine.
Thank you, Professor,
Thank
so
you.
much.
For this old professional, it's been very interesting. These meetings are tremendous because all the speakers are giving their time for nothing. They're not being paid anything. And I can tell you, I've been coming for years, and every year they have different slides and up to date. And the young people, particularly in the summer meeting, you have a lot of young, intelligent people, and so we learn from each other. I think the most important thing is the young people from all these different countries getting to know each other and then networking and joining in studies together. This is very important. Some of the meetings we've had Serbs versus Croats with absolutely no problem, and this must be good. And it is really a tremendous thing which lasts all your life. I made friendships when I was this age, which still continue, and so you can still know who you can ask for their opinion, who you could get to join in trials and things like this. It's tremendous. People are always saying that progress cannot go on at this rate. Every year there is something new, and so it's impossible to predict what's going to happen in the future. If you ask me the question, what is particularly new this year, I can't tell you off the top of my head. It's just that I just enjoy these meetings. It updates me. It is, but as I said, it's a two-way process. They influence me as well as I influence them. I try to look back over my lifetime and then remember things which are contradictory to what they're saying perhaps now, and that way puts a little perspective. You're not only coming to this place to exchange ideas, you're coming to learn something about the country. We've just spent 4 days on our own travelling up the Douro, and it's a magnificent region, and staying in a quinta there was a real privilege. And then we spent a day in Guimarães also, so I've seen something of it, and I will look forward to seeing something more, and going to a Posada, which I've been to before, and they're very nice places.
Well, it's wonderful to be here. I think the nice thing is that we see the world's leading experts in their field, and then they come and you're in one room and you can ask them whatever you want. And so we have people like Zanchetti and Anna Dominicak, and they tell you genuinely how they feel about research and the direction that the blood pressure is moving in. And it's such an invaluable experience to have that, because you never get to meet people or have these conversations with them when you go to clinical meetings. So it's lovely, and I'm learning a lot, and it's only the second day.
So far it's been a fantastic programme. I think it's been a very good general overview, and I think it's appealed to everybody no matter what their background or specialty. I think it's been great to meet people from different backgrounds, to hear their different ideas, so I think I'll take a lot away when I go back.
I think it was great, all the presentations here. It's such a nice experience for me to be here. It's really good information in all the presentations, current information for us as researchers and as physicians. It's really nice. We actually try to connect with other people around the world, here in Europe and also from other countries in America, to try to collaborate together, developing any knowledge, well, in this case, in the field of hypertension, right?
For me, it's always a great pleasure to participate in this activity, because, in my opinion, it's probably the most important activity we have in the European Society of Hypertension, because in addition to the big meetings, these large meetings with thousands and thousands of people, this kind of school is devoted to young researchers, young doctors interested in the field of hypertension and cardiovascular disease. And it's, I think, an important opportunity for all of them to meet here in a friendly atmosphere, in a relaxing place, but with rigorous information given by professors. But I think the most important part is the interaction among them, to each other. No, a French with a Czech and a Portuguese, with an Italian or an Spanish. No? They have contacts. They have the possibility to discuss and even to see the future in a different way. Because after summer school, everybody, has in the mentality something is changed. No? And I have talked with many of them, and all of them are very, very, interested and very happy of being here. Particularly, the people coming from Latin America, because, as you know, I'm the responsible for the international relationship of the European Society with Latin America. And the people coming from Brazil, from Mexico, Venezuela, and Argentina, they enjoy very much, to come to Europe, to come to here, to Portugal, Spain, Italy, and so, and then, establish this kind of relations, with the European researchers.
Can be partnerships to research be born in this kind of meetings?
Yeah, sure. I have, after these meetings, some of the attendees send me emails asking for the possibility to stay in my hospital with my team, to start some kind of research on hypertension, and the same for the others. So I think this is many times the beginning of a process that takes a long time after.
Well, as you know, this is my first time in the European Summer School. I come from Africa. It's a little bit atypical to be an African to be in the summer school, but it was very useful for me, not only because I've been able to show what we are doing in Africa in terms of hypertension, but also mainly because it was an opportunity to learn with the other faculty and to learn with the students. And I'm really trying to increase the African participation in this type of events. Maybe in the future, I've already asked with the people from the European Society of Hypertension to be able to send 1 or 2 African students to the next summer schools. Yes, I think there are 2 main objectives, and there were 2 main objectives. First, to show that hypertension in Africa it's a huge problem. And also it's a different problem because Africans have some particularities. And as you know, nowadays you have an enormous amount of African descendants living in Europe, and the European doctors should be aware how to treat these patients, which perform a little bit differently from the Caucasian ones. We have 2 Mozambicans here, where I'm as a faculty and a student, and the thing that I told the student is that this is an opportunity to establish links that will last for the rest of her life, which are extremely important if you want to do research and if you want to pursue some of the objectives of research in the future.
I think this idea of Giuseppe Manche and Renata Zivkova some more than 10 years ago was a brilliant one. Every year there is a summer school for young investigators, for those people who want to get involved in hypertension research and hypertension clinical practice since then. And all of these meetings were really very successful. And this is one of the most successful ones, not just because the number of participants is more than 70 from all over the world, but in these meetings people get to know each other, they would become friends, and several new scientific projects are initiated in these meetings. So it's really very, very good for educational, for teaching, and also for research. Yes, I think it's completely different. Participating at a large conference where there are 7,000 people, a lecturer gives the idea, we are sitting in the crowd and listening, this is different. They could actively participate in the discussion. They could discuss the topics during the breaks, during even the lunchtime or the evening, and this promotes the research much better. And new friendships are also created in these meetings. The new guideline, absolutely the new guideline that was published in June in Journal of Hypertension and also later on in the European Heart Journal, because it collects all the important data and it gives us a lot of clue for our future and future research, and it helps the clinical practice every day.
There are two reasons. First, in the past, the most important organs which were at risk when you have a high blood pressure were heart disease, cerebrovascular diseases, and kidney diseases. And now people are living longer and longer, and they have time to develop disturbances of cognition and behavior, which are grouped under the name of Alzheimer's disease or dementia. And in a way, because the population is becoming older and older, Alzheimer's disease becomes a more and more important problem. This is why I have selected to analyze the link between blood pressure and dementia or Alzheimer's disease. The Portuguese government is now investigating the possibility to design a plan against Alzheimer's disease for the country before the year of 2013. And I do hope that they will go in this direction, because most of the countries now are trying to rationalize the fight against Alzheimer's disease. I have been invited because I was in charge of the Alzheimer's plan in France for 5 years, but there are a lot of very good working groups at the present time, and I think that they will give their conclusions before the end of this year. I have some results, some quantitative results of the Alzheimer's plan in France concerning a number of approaches, but basically the budget of this research for 5 years was 1 billion euros and 600, which has been mainly used to help families and patients. So in a way, my own research is in the laboratory on the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, which is not directly related to Alzheimer's disease. But on the other hand, from a public health viewpoint, I am trying to make the link between blood pressure and Alzheimer's disease.
Them some take-home messages. First is you can do always research, clinical research or basic research, if you involve yourself, if you have ideas, and I think this is very stimulating for young people. Wonderful, it's wonderful, because we live in a period of economical crisis. So to have summer school here, I think it's very good.
I think the balance is very good because people were attending very well at the sessions, participated very much, and the students were always putting very interesting questions, and sometimes we, the faculty, had no chance to to answer them directly because they put very interesting questions, and mainly they gave us. They bring us their own work, which is very important, very interesting. They presented here more than half of them presented their own works, either oral presentation, either as poster presentation. Very interesting works. Some of them in the initial phases, which may now be ameliorated and integrate some of the work of the others. So it is a big opportunity of their exchanging ideas, comments in order to ameliorate each of the work in order to, in the near future, it can be applied in the daily practice of treating our patients. Did the social program 2 visits at 2 very important parts and beautiful parts of Portugal, Guimarães and Porto, so they had the opportunity to know a little bit better our country and to have an opinion, a personal opinion of that. It's a big jump, and I would like to be more than a student than we more as a student than as a host and as a professor, because the student can get the most fun and the most important thing from the summer school, and the hoster and the professor has all the work and all the responsibilities, but fortunately everything was very, very good. I had excellent help from all the other members of the board, of all the other members of the faculty, and all the other members, not only of the board of Portuguese Society of Hypertension, but of the European Society of Hypertension, and of course of the travel agency that helped us. All of them had a great part of the success of this meeting. Mine was only to be the coordinator of them.
Muito obrigada, professor.
Obrigado, eu.